Good morning, everybody. Well, I wanted to make sure and make good on my promise to, if everybody's going to leave comments, the least I can do is come back in and answer some of them. And there's been some really good questions in the comments to the SteelCast. And by the way, everybody is reacting very positively to this. And so thank you guys for still being here. And I can't promise I'm going to get to this every video, or, I probably need to give it a little bit more soak time, but I'm feeling extra anxious, so I'm trying to do something so I feel productive, right? So, but with further ado, I wanted to get into the comments from our SteelCast number 1. And at least acknowledge you guys that have been here and putting stuff down, because you guys are, by commenting and all that kind of good stuff, you guys are absolutely doing God's work. So thank you so much. So starting off, Jesse James Peterman, nice to hear from you, Trenton. John Wesley, T1B, really enjoyed the first episode. Really hope you continue, and I look forward to next week. So John, the good news is, whether or not the hind end just falls out of me in the next couple weeks, I've already got 6 weeks worth of SteelCast in the bag, and they are actually uploaded to YouTube. So regardless, even if I get shot, you guys can look forward to at least 5 more weeks of SteelCast. So hang around, they're going to be here. Joe Peluso Media. So this is where I've got to eat a little bit of crow, because I want to tell you guys, I met Joe at a place called White Oak Pastures when we did a little demo there a while back. Joe was doing a bunch of filming, had some really nice equipment, did some really cool stuff, and Joe and I got a chance to talk. And I want to tell you, Joe has been after me to get some stuff done on the video, and I'm going to tell you, I have been the absolute worst about getting back with Joe. And I have no good excuse for it. So the only thing I can do is say, Joe, I'm sorry, man. I'm going to give you a call this week. Thank you for hanging in there with me. And yeah, we can get some stuff done. Joe may end up helping us a little bit with some video. We'll see how that works out. But again, Joe, thanks for hanging around, dude. And again, sorry for being hard to get a hold of. So thank you, man. Bryson Alden, my experience as an artist blacksmith forces me to agree with everything that you said. There's a commonality between these experiences. I mean, there really is, especially for those of us that kind of came up in isolation. When you start out, there's a real tendency that we feel like we are very isolated and that the experience is unique. It's not. I mean, that kind of gets addictive because, we're kind of I don't know. I always felt like the kid that was outside the window at the party, and, you're like, I want to be outside because I don't want to be inside, yet you always look lovingly into the window. So there's a common experience trying to be an artist blacksmith, or just a crafter in general. I don't think it's as unique as we all think it is to start with. So Mark Goggin, love hearing from you again. Now, it is absolutely fair to say that Mark is probably the #1 Purgatory Ironworks superfan. Mark always takes the time to comment and support the channel. So, Mark, thank you so much, man. I do appreciate you on that end of it. Roger K. Lint, wise words. Thank goodness I get that monthly check. Making $2 an hour doesn't pay the bills. You are absolutely right about that. But, I think if everybody was a little more honest about facing the numbers, that everybody get along a little bit better. It's okay. Nobody's a professional starting out, and there's a line there. You have to have a certain level of skill, and not just that, because you can make beautiful things all day long, but unless you spend the time, effort, and energy to get it sold, well, it doesn't do you any good, does it? Lance Landis. Same goes for knife makers. I've got knives I've had for 3 or more years, and they just don't sell. And the only way to solve that is by making, one of the wildest things is when we started making knives here in the shop on a production level. We were doing, 90 blades every 2 weeks. I mean, we were hoofing it, buddy. And, back in the day, if I made a knife and it failed, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I just screwed up, half of all this work. Well, when we do knives on that level, I mean, we routinely have 3 or 4 that will have a crack, or there's a fault in it on that end of it. The only way you can account for those that don't sell, or as the industry term is dead inventory, is you've just got to make enough of it that it doesn't matter. Small lathe. I know a very good machinist. He is running his own machine shop business. Yet, as you say, he is retired years ago, got his retirement check once a month, and so on. He makes money. He's a pro, very, very skilled. But as you say, that's an extra cash for the kids and the grandkids. If he is sick and the shop is closed, it doesn't matter. Click the read more here. Yeah, hey, that's exactly how it works, you know. And this is, and we'll talk more about this in some of the later podcasts about the illusion of success. When I was with Jay in Andersonville, Jay, you know, had not only his retirement from the military, Jay had also a stipend. Now, a lot of people don't realize this, but Jay Riekert was actually the disinherited son of a billionaire, though Jay did still get a stipend from the estate. But, you know, Jay had money coming in. And so, you know, when he sold stuff in Andersonville, it's just like, you know, he did good sales on like the one event that they had, but it wasn't anything consistent. So, Bernie from the internet. I have always respected and taken your advice about artists and how an artist should navigate the real world. Kind of looks like all the artists were just screwed by God because the nature of art is that it's not just maximally efficient problem solving, which is 99% of what real jobs are. And people with an artist temperament just wither away if they don't have the ability to create or experience aesthetics and the pursuit of beauty. I mean, screwed by God like in a funny way. It's not all that bad. I don't know. I don't know about that. So here's, you know, and here's the thing. You can be an artist and have a real job. There are designer jobs out there. I mean, it's not like having the aesthetic is necessarily a death sentence. It's not. But I will say that I feel like that there's normal people, and I'm going to use that as a term, the normal people seem to have a better tolerance for repeating the same thing day after day. They have a higher tolerance for monotony, whereas with an artist, we'd lose our freaking minds. And I'm speaking in generalities, of course. You know, when I was at my lowest after Jay had died, I mean, it was hardcore depression. Things were not good, boys and girls, right? And I had a very bad situation. I had a conversation with Jay's pistol. And at the end of that conversation, I said, well, nope, I'm not ready to ride the train. I was like, but so I need to either get a W-2 or eat this 38. And if I'm not going to eat this 38, it means I need to get a W-2. So I went to work for Lowe's. And I'm going to tell you, boys and girls, as bad as I was in such a terrible mental state, it took me 6 months to explain to them how they could take that red vest and put it up their hind end sideways, right? 6 months. I worked in electrical, and I was so tired of the monotony of putting electrical parts up on a shelf. I credit hatred, absolute pure hatred for lifting me out of my depression, because I was a lot of things, but I in no way was a shelf stalker, right? So, and there may be people out there that are perfectly happy with that. God bless you. That is not me. All right, what's next? Man of 1,000 hats. I can say my observations from Blacksmithing Club that I've been hanging around with for 10 to 15 years now is that the majority of the fellows in the club are retired. There's one guy I know who's a sugar baby. Boy, to be a sugar baby. And anybody else is either a young person whose parents supported them doing this and now they've got a legacy of success, or they're tradesmen and they make a ton of money and they have a ton of time. But I don't know many people who are in the club who are independently successful as blacksmiths. So you're not wrong about that. In fact, there's only a handful of us in the state of Georgia. I mean, right now, if you had to tell me, right now, who's the two closest guys, the only two people I know right now that are making it as legitimate blacksmiths are myself and Jordan Borselman from down in Florida. I think Michael Dillon's up in Atlanta. I don't think Mr. John Boyd Smith has done anything, so that, that's three of us. But again, it's such a different world than just being a hobbyist. So, yeah, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody needs to be a damn blacksmith on a professional level, because there's only so much money to go around. However, and this will be the topic of when I when I get to the dreaded topic of Abana on one of these podcasts on that end of it, it's like, what's the point of our craft? What's the point of our groups? When Abana was founded, it was to promote blacksmithing. Well, the height of that promotion is making somebody that's in business that does it for a living. It should be the creation and the support of the professional. But that's a whole other topic that, and I really don't feel like kicking that hornet's nest right now. I've already taken enough bad phone calls. So, Michael Mosley, let's see some blacksmithing, Trent. We miss it. I know you do, Michael. And believe it or not, this morning we actually filmed a fork. I want to try some different formats. This is going to be kind of, we didn't worry about miking up for this. And so I'm hopefully going to be cutting it this week. But it's going to be essentially the footage of the fork, and I'm going to be doing a voiceover explaining what I'm doing, because you've got to understand that being behind this microphone is way easier on me to do the full production like we used to with the 2 cameras and the original videos. Man, it is it is incompatible with running a proper business, because to do something like that, you need a stage setup. So we're going to try something different, but don't worry, we're going to get some hot steel coming here very shortly. All right, MP Robinson, Robison, MP Improv Bison, somewhere in there. Time is money, and is often an overlooked subset of all those important numbers. Production numbers are easy. X number of S-hooks, etc. How much time it takes you to get the leads for items and travel times, those are the killers. Please share more of your experiences with time management. Man, could I write the book on that end of it. And again, and I have to stress, and I don't know if it was like this for everybody else, but I knew the numbers were bad when I was originally doing this stuff. And I intentionally ignored them because they weren't going to tell me the story that I wanted to hear, right? But you've got to face those numbers. Chris Steele, 4074. Covers a lot of the traps for young and old alike. I came up through the university system with a BA in visual arts. Very nice. So I was well versed with a lot of the practical side of drawing, painting, sculpture, color theory, composition, ceramics, fiber arts, somatic processes, and all kinds of historical facts, along with a big chunk of essay writing. But can you make money with that? Absolutely. But only about 1 in 100 will. The rest of us that sucked, well, I went into engineering, network management, technical writing, and yep, I have a business degree. Oh, there's a little bit more there. Hang on, I got to pop back up. Let me open that up. I got to see the rest of the story here. Business degree tucked away there because that was necessary as well. Not only do you need to have a diverse and well-rounded business, if you don't know how to pay people, do your taxes, and figure out a budget, you're going to be headed to a comet-sized financial crater that will make you extinct. It's vicious out there, kids, and sometimes just downright unfair in a lot of ways. Boy, isn't that the truth? But that's just how life is. You make it more in your favor with the smarter long-term goals and hedging your bets by making sure if something goes to pot, then something else will pick up the slack, and 100%. I make really nice kitchen knives. It's more or less my stock and trade, but it's not enough to do that just because I don't have the secondary or even third or fourth tertiary income. It's very easy to cover your costs. It's highly improbable in a first world country that you will cover your hourly rate, but it's not that you can't try. But I don't see the cost of a locally manufactured handmade good being able to remotely cover basic wages enough to be absorbed by the cost of the item. Add that inflation, it's not getting cheaper. Fuel will go up, electricity goes up, gas for the forge, and all that. So be very clear in that time, material and final costing of your product. I could not agree more. And let me say this, I can say that I am reasonably successful. I mean, I've got 2 people that work for me, and I mean, I have, for the past decade, made sure that I've been able to eat and that I have taken care of the people that have worked with me, which is not a small thing. But those of us in our age group, we got the short end of the stick too. Now, the new kids on that end of it, it's got to be worse. But it started back with us because we had the Hope Scholarship here in Georgia. And I went to University, Georgia Southwestern, on Hope Scholarship. And that was almost a hook because let me tell you, you remember, guys, the whole savings and loan deal where they were buying junk debt? When I went to the cafeteria at Georgia Southwestern, the hallway going into the cafeteria was lined, and I mean lined, with little fold-out tables, and there were people there that would give a college student a $20,000 limit credit card for signing their name. I mean, that's because they were buying up all the thing, and that's what led to a part of the financial meltdown was all those bad debts. I mean, they would give anybody money at that point. And it was just a bad deal. So, we're in college and everybody's got a degree. Well, that's great, but everybody's got a degree. So now the market's flooded. Myself, dual degree, psych and bio. Didn't finish it, by the way. I ran afoul of the professor. But I spent 6 years and I paid for that myself. So, screw you guys if I don't have my piece of paper. I got 6 years of college, dual degree, psych and bio. Y'all can eat it, right? So, but I went into blacksmithing because I had to. And I think if there was any phrase that has powered me more from college, it's not, for a quote from Darwin of all people, it's not necessarily the strongest that survive, but those most adaptable to change. And that's what I did. I adapted. All right. Jack Dog, very well done. I see so many people think they can be successful blacksmith and make a fortune 2 weeks after they pick up their first hammer. Are you releasing this as a podcast? Yada, yada. I'm not sure about how to do this specifically as a podcast. It is being released through YouTube as a podcast, but not any other particular way. That's going to require somebody with some tech knowledge that I don't have. One of those things. We're working on it. The tech end of this is a full-time job in itself, and it's monotonous, and I'm doing the best I can. Ferret Gubbins. I don't understand. It sounded like Mr. Ty, and it was tangentially about blacksmithing, but he said that it would get tight and concise and there wouldn't be any digressions. Who is this man? I know, right? That's the amazing thing about being in business. You have to make room for that psycho side of yourself that's all over the map, but when it comes down to it, you have to be able to show a little discipline. Absolutely about the discipline. Bill Chesser. I used to know a few artists. They had full-time jobs. While they had $600 for stuff at the art show, mostly they sold $20 stuff. Absolutely true. We're going to talk about that on a different podcast about the pyramid of sales. Going to be very important. By the way, most artists I know are a bit bitter because they can't support themselves solely by their art. Now, see that's one of the questions that I saw that actually made me come and do this follow-up, right? So I know those people, but it's usually not their art that's the problem. And I'm speaking in generalities. Now, I don't know the people that you know. But I find so many artists are angry because they just want to do their art. And we spoke about this earlier, is that you're going to have to conform to reality, right? And so the thing is there is a way to do it, but it's not through your art. Your art is a secondary feature. Your business is what's going to save you. Look, there are people out there right now that are making small fortunes taking photographs of their feet and putting it on the internet. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If things ever go bust here, buddy, I'm having my own foot channel. I'm telling you now. I'm tired of working too hard. I'm going to show off these tootsies. But it's about their business. And I think that's the one thing that gets me the most, because when I see young artists, I want to slap them a lot. Like, first of all, you have to get through to them. It's like, hey, I know what I'm talking about. I know you've had a rough time. People have treated you weird, but you are going to have to listen to somebody at some point. And if you're not, then you're just going to continue to suck. You've got to learn. It's not all about what's in your head. You've got to conform to reality. No matter how many drugs you take, they will wear off, and reality always comes back, right? Bill Smithy, and I saw this one too. This was the other reason I decided to do this answer podcast, because Bill Smithy, who's been with me quite a while, says, I'm 73, smith for fun. I like making stuff. I give stuff away because I've made tubs of stuff. However, it costs money to buy metal to make it. If I sell stuff at cost just to afford more metal, I'm undercutting those who do it for a business. Suggestions. Bill, you have actually touched upon a perennial issue, and this has really happened in the knife making community, right? I have personally heard Knife Guild members just chew somebody to pieces for underpricing their work, because you are absolutely right. If I, as a professional, have a business price of a knife that's $400 or $500, and then somebody's going to make essentially the same knife and charge materials because it's their hobby, yes, they are screwing my eyeballs out on that end of it. Now, of course, they're going to sell their stuff way faster than I am, and that is absolutely literally poisoning the market on that end. That is how that works, and there's no way around it, because if you're making your stuff, you get to sell it for whatever price that you want it, flat out and period. It's a pain in the butt. It's an aggravation. And it's not, and the thing is, you actually realize that you're underpricing your work. There's, I think it's number 3. The third podcast that's coming out from here is about pricing your work. So many people have no idea how to price their work, and they end up they undercut themselves, and it's not just for them, they undercut everybody as well, everybody else. So it's a conundrum, and there's nothing that can be done for it, because if you're a wealthy billionaire and you want to sell your knife for $100 to pay for your materials, and that's just how it is. And as a business person, you have to factor that in. If you are making a great quality knife, somebody else is making a great quality knife and they're selling it for a lower price, well, that's when you send them the mail bomb, right? They got to go. They're screwing up the system. So M80 Wolf, I talked to a local blacksmith near me. He told me the only blades he makes money on, he grinds and cuts them from files and never touches his forge until he tempers them. That's true. That's one of the reasons that, I'll do my super high-end axes, which are start about $400, which, by the way, available on TrentonTide.com. And then we have our production blades, the colonial knives that we've been making, and we have those blanks laser cut. And that is the only way that I can get somebody a knife, a custom knife with a really nice sheath, for $150 and stay alive. If I were to forge each one of those blades to have to hand grind, no, sir. There's no way. They'd be double that, if not more, right? And that's just business. Big and one, very small monthly check, true. Ulbeck, who has always been here, who's a personal advocate of Al Gore endorsing the SteelCast. Thank you, sir. John Wesley, we've heard from. Mark Goggin, how do I get into this money laundering thing? Stephen actually has, Steve Nolan does have the right answer, and that is sell dope. That's level 1. Have cash. Michael Guerin, number 1, find your market. Number 2, use Jedi mind tricks. Number 3, shake the parasites. I can sum this up into real quick is that boobs sell. I got to be careful not to get myself in trouble here, because there's another blacksmith on YouTube that the content was basically jiggly boobs, and not very attractive ones. And I have watched what I consider to be somewhat of a charlatan blow the doors off my channel because there was some jiggle on that end of it. Don't even get me started. So yes. And YouTube's changed as well. So it seems if you want to have a successful YouTube channel these days, you can be insanely talented and you're not going to get any traction, but you can be a pretty girl and do something mediocre and make millions. It's very, very frustrating. Very frustrating. And it's a shame, because there's some very talented ladies out there. But yeah, it's not great. But I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it's men that watch YouTube, right? So True. Andrew, tables full of stuff, a kilt that smells funny. Why you gotta come at me like that? Andrew, to be honest with you, that actually wasn't particularly directed to you. You're just collateral damage, because there's an entire stinky hive of kilt wearers in Florida. And they were the ones that I had in mind. All right, so that's going to do it for the comments for SteelCast 1 Blacksmith Business Mistakes. Guys, again, thank you so much for coming by and supporting the channel. Like I said, we're going to try to keep this thing rolling. Yeah, so just a reminder, and I got to remember to start doing this at the front of the podcast. TrentonTie.com, all of our recent axes that we've made out of our railroad spikes are now up on the store. Also, our new production knives. We've got some Green River knives, some real cool skinning knives and stuff. All of that is available on sale at TrentonTie.com under the store, and classes are just about here. Please take a look at the class page and check out all the cool accommodations we are gearing up. But outside of that, guys, thank you so very much for hanging around, and I will talk to you guys later. Y'all be good.